Many live below what Jesus revealed, not due to lack of faith, but due to lack of revelation. Today, John 10:10 will open your eyes to a truth that changes destinies. There are moments when life seems normal on the outside, but inside, an invisible weariness is taking place. Every step, every decision, every breath carries a weight no one else sees, but you feel it deeply, and yet you keep going, trying to hold everything together, even while not understanding why certain areas of your life always seem to hang by a thread. It's in this silent atmosphere that John 10:10 becomes more than just a verse. It becomes a spiritual diagnosis. Because Jesus didn't speak this verse to create fear. He spoke it to reveal something many people have never clearly seen. There's a war being waged for your fullness, even when you're unaware of it. There are situations that seem like mere emotional exhaustion, but behind them, something is quietly trying to diminish your strength. There are thoughts that appear normal, yet are silently weakening your hope. There are moments when everything around you seems ordinary, but deep within something is being stolen, slowly, almost imperceptibly. That's why Jesus exposes the contrast right at the beginning of the verse. Before revealing what he came to offer, he shows what tries to block that offer from reaching you. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Not because he's stronger, but because he operates through the gaps we don't notice. And that's the key. It's not always big attacks, it's not always frightening storms. Usually it's subtle infiltrations, a conversation that left you unsettled without knowing why, an old insecurity that resurfaced when you thought you'd already overcome it, a silent comparison with someone who seems further ahead than you. And suddenly you realize you're living with less joy than before, less hope, less vision for the future. These gaps are so subtle that if you're not watchful, they begin shaping how you see your own story. Sometimes, without realizing it, you start accepting thoughts like, maybe this is the most I'll ever experience. Maybe my life won't go much beyond this. Maybe I was made to fail. And that's when a second blow strikes, not at your days, but at your identity. Because when hope is reduced, vision shrinks. When vision shrinks, faith loses space. And when faith loses space, all that remains is survival. That's the point where many think everything's fine, when in reality, they're merely existing. And this limited existence can happen in any area of life. In relationships, when silence weighs heavier than words. In emotions, when you force a smile while exhausted inside. In faith, when you believe, but can no longer hope. In dreams, when you still remember who you wanted to be, but no longer feel capable. These areas don't vanish overnight. They're slowly drained, like a lamp gradually dimming. And in those moments, something even more dangerous emerges. The enemy doesn't care whether you believe or not. He carries out his agenda anyway. This statement, applied to real life, carries profound meaning. The enemy doesn't need explicit permission to try limiting you. He only needs distraction. He only needs exhaustion. He only needs that moment when you say, I can't take it anymore. Because when the soul is weary, it more easily believes lies. And those lies usually come disguised as logic. In my family, it's always been this way. It won't be different for me. I'm past the age for that now. If it were meant to happen, it would have happened by now. And then, without noticing, you embrace phrases like, there are people who say, I was born to fail, but that's the voice of discouragement, not God's truth. This is the great battle of the human heart. What you believe about yourself determines how you live. And it's exactly here that John 10:10 changes everything. Jesus doesn't linger on the first part of the verse. He doesn't stop at the diagnosis. He doesn't show you the attack to leave you afraid. He reveals what tries to steal your fullness, but immediately proclaims the fullness that's available. After exposing what limits you, he declares what liberates you. I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full. This life isn't biology. It's not routine. It's not automatic breathing. It's life in every layer of your being, in your spirit, emotions, soul, mind, relationships, purpose. And even in the details no one notices. Abundant life isn't perfect life. Abundant life is present life. Life that responds, life that blossoms, life that rises, life that grows where there was once stagnation. It's the difference between someone who merely breathes and someone who finally lives. And Jesus is saying, "When I came so you could live like this." And perhaps as you hear this, a part of your heart whispers, "But I don't know how to step into this abundant life." And that's when the next spiritual key emerges. So simple, yet so profound. To have abundant life, you must follow the steps of the Word. Not perfection, not religiosity, not human effort. The Word restores what circumstances tried to diminish. It realigns vision, resets the heart, and returns to the spirit what daily routine tried to steal. And when this truth begins penetrating your soul, something changes. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Abundant life isn't a future destination. It begins the moment you allow Jesus' light to shine into the space where confusion, fear, or exhaustion once lived. It's a revelation that transforms. It's a presence that sustains. It's a love that rebuilds. And little by little, you realize you were created for far more than merely enduring. You were created to flourish. There are seasons in life when a person grows accustomed to emotional survival. They wake up, do what's needed, handle what comes, but inside, they feel something remains breathless. It's not lack of will, nor lack of effort. It's as if a part of the soul is always one step behind what God designed. And that gap between what you live and what God designed is the perfect ground where weariness quietly settles. Often without realizing it, a person begins believing this emptiness is normal, that certain pains will always accompany them, that broken dreams can't be mended, that all that's left is to move forward and try not to think too much. This emotional exhaustion doesn't come from one single blow. It arises from small accumulated losses. The loss of motivation, the loss of trust, the loss of clarity, the loss of sparkle. And in that climate, the soul begins reacting as if life is smaller than it truly is. It's in this setting that many silently identify with a profound truth. He enters your family, emotional, and financial life to steal peace, purpose, and hope. Not because there's a power greater than God's love, but because prolonged distraction opens doors you didn't even know existed. When someone loses hope, their choices change. When they lose vision, their steps slow down. When they lose inner confidence, they start accepting lesser versions of themselves. This happens when someone looks back and thinks, "It wasn't supposed to be like this." Or when they look ahead and say, "Maybe this really is the best I can achieve." These thoughts create an invisible prison, not one that locks the body, but one that imprisons perspective. And when perspective is shaped by frustration, wounds, and silence, it begins distorting the truth about who you are. That's why Jesus exposed the attack before announcing the promise. Not so you'd fear the darkness, but so you'd know there's enough light to overcome it. Abundant life doesn't require pretending everything's fine. It only requires allowing truth to enter where pain once lived alone. And that truth begins with recognizing it's not just the outside world trying to limit you. There are internal battles fed by thoughts that shouldn't occupy so much space. There are feelings you've never shared with anyone, yet they claim so much territory they begin shaping your decisions. That's why Jesus didn't just come to restore your exterior. He came to reorder your interior. And for that, there's a path that must be understood. Abundant life is received, but it's also cultivated. The first step of this cultivation is simple yet deep. Awareness. Becoming aware of what tries to steal your peace, drain your energy, and occupy hope's rightful place. And when that awareness awakens, something within you begins regaining strength. Jesus never said life would be without struggles. He only affirmed you don't have to face any of them alone. And it's precisely in this context that another truth becomes clear. The enemy doesn't care whether you believe or not. He carries out his agenda anyway. This means part of the battle isn't just resisting evil, but rejecting the narrative that tries to diminish who you are in God. You're not defined by what went wrong. You're not limited by your worst days. You're not the sum of your accumulated losses. You're someone who's still breathing. And if you're still breathing, then God is still working. But to live abundant life, you must confront internal narratives that didn't come from God. When someone believes they were born to fail, that their story is small, that they don't deserve to grow, they become imprisoned by something they can't even name. That's why it's so important to understand that desire alone isn't enough. You must learn to walk with change. Abundant life doesn't only happen when circumstances change. It begins when you change how you respond to circumstances, when you learn to view every area of your life with the certainty you're not alone, when you discover that even on hard days, there's still purpose, and even in silent days, God is working in details you can't see. But there's something even deeper. Abundant life also depends on what you feed. What you feed grows. What you repeat gains strength. What you keep in your heart shapes your destiny. That's why one of the deepest declarations is this: the word must be in your heart, in your mind, and on the tip of your tongue. Because when the word becomes part of you, your mind is trained to recognize what comes from God and reject what tries to diminish you. The word brings clarity where there was confusion. It strengthens areas that were fragile. It heals spaces wounded for years. The truth is, no one flourishes by accident. People flourish because they learn to position their hearts in the right place. And the right place is always where God speaks, not where fear speaks. When you feed what God says, abundant life grows naturally. When you feed what the enemy suggests, life contracts. But there's something even more precious. God doesn't require you to be strong to begin. He only asks that you be willing. Because abundant life doesn't spring from human strength. It springs from surrender. Surrender of pain. Surrender of fear. Surrender of the past. Surrender of control. And when you surrender, God fills. There comes a moment when the soul senses something new arising. It's not excitement, not noise, not passing emotion. It's a quiet whisper saying, "It's not over yet. I still have more." That's the beginning of abundant life. When you start believing God's best isn't behind you, but is being built right now. And with each step, each decision, each letting go of thoughts that no longer serve you, fullness begins taking shape. You realize God doesn't just want to pull you out of pain. He wants to lead you to an entirely different place, a place where the soul breathes, where the mind finds rest, where the heart begins believing again, where life regains color. And that's what Jesus came to offer, not minimal existence, but overflowing life. There are seasons in life when the soul seems to walk with silent footsteps, like someone crossing a familiar room but sensing something's been moved. It's not pain, not explicit discouragement, it's a kind of inner misalignment. The person keeps moving, fulfilling responsibilities, functioning, yet feels something inside isn't keeping pace. When the mind enters this state, every detail gains exaggerated weight. A poorly chosen word weighs more than it should. An ordinary frustration becomes a mirror of everything you feel you failed to become. An old memory returns with force, bringing the sense that time passed too quickly to recover what was lost. This emotional terrain is sensitive, which is why Jesus was determined to reveal the spiritual dynamics at work in human life. There are influences attempting to shape perception, often approaching in subtle disguises. They don't arrive as obvious attacks, but as thoughts that seem reasonable. It's in this environment that a truth must be confronted. Not everything that sounds logical comes from God. Not every recurring thought is healthy. Not every persistent feeling reflects reality. Some arise as interferences trying to diminish what God is building. That's why there are times the heart must learn to discern what strengthens and what weakens. Abundant life doesn't sprout in soil where the soul absorbs everything. It flourishes when there's inner vigilance, a vigilance born not of fear, but of awareness. And it's this awareness that the following truth illuminates. Avoid the talk that poisons faith and undermines hope. This phrase reveals something profound. Some voices don't just speak words, they speak atmospheres. There are conversations that lighten the soul, and others that gray it. There are counsels that heal and others that paralyze. There are people who draw you toward purpose and others who drag you into emotional spaces that don't belong to you. Many transformations never happen, not from lack of faith, but from excess noise. Noise that distracts, noise that exhausts, noise that confuses. And little by little, this noise begins shaping thoughts that didn't originate with God. That's when a silent decision must be made. Separate what builds from what corrodes. Abandon conversations that diminish your spirit. Shield your mind from opinions that lower your worth. Choose what nourishes over what weakens. And this leads us to another powerful revelation. Do not approach people whose words are like gangrene. They destroy hope, vision, and purpose. This statement precisely describes the influence of certain voices. Not every criticism is malice, but not every opinion is neutral. Some words carry the weight of wounded experiences, accumulated frustrations, and distorted views. And when someone absorbs this without realizing, they begin walking emotional circles. The soul starts reacting not to what God said, but to what fear said, not to what truth affirms, but to what doubt suggests, not to what the Spirit reveals, but to what weariness interprets. And that's why so many struggle to take new steps. Not from lack of courage, but because something has been quietly eroding their confidence from within. Abundant life demands selective silence. It requires learning to mute voices that don't dialogue with your future. It requires discerning which environments uplift you and which cause you to shrink. But it also demands another posture, nourishing your soul with what God says. And when that happens, something extraordinary begins to emerge. Whoever seeks the word daily has visible fruit before all. God honors them publicly. This truth isn't about merit, it's about fruit. The word transforms people from the inside out, awakening conviction, realigning priorities, and reigniting hope. And what God illuminates in secret, He manifests clearly in practical life. As someone draws closer to the light, they notice inner shadows begin losing strength. Insecurities stop dictating decisions. Pains stop paralyzing. Fears stop setting boundaries. The soul finds order, the spirit finds direction, and the mind finds rest. That's when a new understanding settles in. Abundant life doesn't spring from what you achieve, it springs from what you absorb, from what you meditate on, from what you guard. Because whatever blossoms within inevitably manifests outwardly, and when this transformation begins, the person discovers God didn't call them to live on the emotional margins of leftovers. He called them to live at the center of the fullness Christ revealed. Abundant life doesn't depend on ideal circumstances. It depends on inner clarity, on truth, on alignment. And when that happens, the person realizes something that changes everything. There's more of God within them than any darkness that ever tried to touch them. A soul that returns to hearing truth returns to breathing. A mind that returns to standing firm in the Word returns to seeing clearly. And a heart that returns to alignment with God returns to growing. This is abundant life beginning to emerge, not on the surface, but at the core of existence. When the soul awakens to the truth of John 10:10, something begins stirring within. It's not a sudden change, not an explosion of emotion. It's an inner realignment, a quiet yet firm certainty that God doesn't lead lives toward stagnation, but toward expansion. There are seasons when everything that seemed solid crumbled. Other times, what hurt wasn't the fall, but how long it took to rise again. Yet even in those scenarios, something remains intact: God's intention for you. Abundant life isn't interrupted by pain, it simply waits for the perfect moment to blossom. And this abundance isn't limited to external achievements. It includes peace where there was anxiety, clarity where there was confusion, strength where there was exhaustion, conviction where there was doubt. Abundant life begins when you realize you no longer need to carry everything alone. God didn't call you to survive the day. He called you to live fully within it. And for that, there's a path back to the center, a return inward, a reconnection with what God has always seen in you. This return involves silent decisions, abandoning what poisons you, embracing what strengthens you, filtering what shapes you, receiving what heals you. It's at this point that a profound awareness forms. Whoever stops spiritual growth stops living the abundant life God offers. This isn't about effort, it's about inner movement, because when the heart stops seeking depth, it becomes vulnerable to distractions that drain emotional energy. Abundant life grows where there's continuity, in listening, surrendering, and walking with God. And this journey reveals another essential principle. The word must be in your heart, in your mind, and on the tip of your tongue, not as a rule, but as direction, not as obligation, but as oxygen. The word illuminates dark paths. It gives new meaning to stories. It heals pains time couldn't resolve. It restores to the spirit the identity weariness tried to erase. And when truth enters, an indescribable transformation occurs. The person stops living by reaction and starts living by revelation. They stop moving from pain and start moving from purpose. They stop fearing the future and begin seeing possibilities where they once saw threats. Abundant life isn't a fixed destination, it's a continuous flow, and you're being called to walk in that flow. Now allow your heart to slow down for a few moments. Make space within, because this is the moment you'll approach God with sincerity, not with rehearsed words, but with truth. Let's pray together. Father, in this moment I come before you with an open heart. You know every part of my story, every silent battle, every long wait, every hope that once seemed small. You know where I feel strong and where I'm worn thin, and that's why I come to you, because the abundant life your Son revealed isn't something I build alone. It's something I receive from your hand. Lord, I surrender to you everything that has stolen my inner light. I surrender the fear that keeps returning, the anxiety that tries to dictate my steps, the feeling of never being enough, the thoughts that weaken my courage. I place before you every area of my life that needs your light. Illuminate, Lord. Restore. Adjust what needs realigning. Heal what's been wounded. I ask that your presence deeply penetrate the places where I've grown accustomed to merely surviving. May your love dissolve memories I've carried alone too long. May your voice silence every word that tried to diminish me. May your truth replace every distorted interpretation I've held about myself. Father, open my eyes to what you're still building. Open my ears to hear your direction even when heaven seems silent. Open my heart to receive the fullness I haven't yet experienced. I ask for strength, not just to keep going, but to flourish. I ask for wisdom, not just to decide, but to discern. I ask for peace, not just to calm my day, but to transform how I live. I ask for courage, not to avoid fear, but to walk through it. Lord, place within me the desire to live in depth, to walk with you consistently, to be moved not by exhaustion, but by faith, to be guided not by circumstances, but by your purpose. Bring to my memory everything that can still be restored. Breathe life into areas I considered lost. Resurrect dreams that have fallen asleep. Rebuild within me what weariness tried to destroy. May the abundant life Jesus declared in John 10:10 become real in my daily life. May I live with freedom, clarity, and purpose. May I walk with my head held high, not from pride, but from conviction. May I experience days when your love proves stronger than any doubt. I thank you for being with me right now. I thank you for everything you're already doing. I thank you because nothing I've lived prevents what you're about to do. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. If this prayer spoke to you in any way, don't let this word pass in silence. Subscribe to the channel to walk with me on this journey of faith and restoration, day after day. And if you can, please write in the comments, I choose to live the abundant life. That way you're not just hearing the message, you're responding to it, in faith, surrender, and trust in what God is still going to do in your life.